So you think you're a pro at using FL Studio and there's not much else you need to learn. Well, I'm willing to challenge that belief. Stick around to the end of this video and I bet you might just learn something you didn't know before. What's up everybody, my name is CJ, aka CJink. I'm a musician, producer, artist, and engineer. I've been using FL Studio for about 4 years now and I wanted to make this video to share with you all 5 secret workflow tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call it, that can help you take your production to the next level. I truly believe not everybody knows all of these tips I'm about to bring up, as I literally just learned one of these the other day. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video. I've got one extra bonus tip for you, and it may just happen to be the most important tip in this entire video. Let's get started. So tip number 1, if you have ever used FL Studio for any amount of time, I'm sure you are familiar with this issue right here. Uh-oh, I just dropped some audio into my piano roll, and how do I get rid of this waveform? Hold the Alt key and press the letter N. So you might be wondering, well, what is this feature even for? Well, let me show you. So for example, if you have a drum loop that you want to recreate with program drums, but you don't want to keep toggling back and forth and having to check with your pattern here, you can just drag and drop the loop or whatever sound inside of the piano roll to have a visual guide to see where everything's lining up and that sort of thing. So, you know, if I wanted to recreate this, I can tell this is a kick, this is another kick, this is a snare, I'm assuming hi-hats, hi-hat, kick, kick, snare. So I think this is a pretty valuable tool myself if you're wanting to recreate stuff. I don't know that I've ever used it though, but it's definitely good to keep that in your back pocket in case you ever need it. So tip number 2, multi-button mouse commands. So if you're like me and you have any sort of mouse that has, you know, some side buttons or maybe some sort of additional buttons to it, having your FL Studio set to multi-mouse button mode can give you several more options that you didn't know you had before. So to enable it, let's come up here to options and go to general settings, and we want to look here for the input section. As we can see, there is an optimize for, and we can just select multi-button mouse. If you are for some reason using like a drawing tablet or something like that, you can use pencil. I've never done that, so I'm not sure what all that'll do. Or you can set it to multi-touch monitor if you have a touch monitor or something like a Slate Raven where you want to be able to touch control stuff. Now what this option will allow you to do now is if you press, say, your forward mouse button here, it'll open up this little menu here that will show all of your sources. So as you can see in the playlist, we've got 2 audio clip sources, the pattern, and the automation clip here. Now, what I primarily use this for is if I'm inside of the piano roll for an instrument or a sampler sound, and I want to easily toggle between the two, I can just click just like that and change. Now, on the other end, if you hit your back button on your mouse, it will bring up the pattern picker panel, say that real fast, for your different sources. So if I just scroll over addictive keys, it plays random notes. If I go over this drum break, it will play it. You know, expand, it'll play the default preset, my tag, and the clap sample. Once again, I don't really use the plugin picker or anything like that, so it's kind of out there for me, but it's there if you want it. And just another little bonus tip here while you're in the piano roll, right-clicking on the target channel here, as we can see in the top left, right-clicking on the target channel will open up whatever sound or plugin you're on. So say I want to go to my addictive keys and I want to open it up, well, I don't have to hit tab and then click here. What I can do instead is just right click right up here. Tip number 3. So I actually did not know this one till fairly recently here. I have always had an issue with FL Studio with wanting to disable, you know, all of my effects at one time or turn them back on, but I don't really feel like clicking. If I've got several tracks here, up to like 50 tracks, it's hard to keep up with which ones I'm clicking on, as well as accidentally forgetting to turn something back on. So I found out the other day, I don't know why I never thought to do this before, if you will click on a track, hold Control, and drag across your track selection, that will select all your tracks. So, you know, you can move them up and down, something like that. All you have to do once you've selected them all is just click one track's effects and it turns them all off. Once again, we can easily just click it and they all come back on, and that is definitely a time saver as I had no idea you could do that. Like I said, if you've got effects on say 50 tracks, instead of having to sit there you can just, you know, all in one turn it off. So while we are on the subject here of turning effects on and off, while we're on the subject of mixer effects real quick, another cool thing you can do is right clicking on the effects slot, enable and disable. It will then bring up all your effects you have on that selected channel. For example, on this one I had Fruity Love Filter and Fruity Balance. Here it is. The only time I really might use that would be if I want to see everything that is on my master or something like that. I mean, it's helpful, you know, regardless of what you're on, but I don't find myself using that one too often, but I wanted to let you all know about that in case you might want to use it. If you have learned something you didn't know already, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton and lets me know you all are enjoying, and it lets YouTube know that this video needs to be pushed to others who don't know these things. Also, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. It would help me out a lot, and it would let me know what sort of content content my subscribers are finding me from, and it will let me know what I need to make more of. Tip number 4, different ways to move your tracks and your playlist items. So the other day on TikTok, someone saw me moving a track like this and was like, how in the world are you doing that? So let me show you all. If you want to move a track up or down, all you have to do is hold shift and then scroll wheel on that track. Now, if you don't rename your tracks, your track will just take whatever name is above it. In this case, it's track 1 through 10. So it goes from 10 to 9 to 8 and so on. But if we move that, it will then follow the name with it. So speaking of holding shift and scroll wheel, we can also use this to move different items in the channel rack by holding shift and moving the mouse wheel up and down, as well as the picker panel over here. Another way to move your items that I use all the time, especially when I'm moving my drums and stuff like that, I'll hold control and select them like this, and then I'll just hold shift and move the arrow up and down. That way it snaps in place real nicely. You know, you can go up, down, left, and right with it. You can of course move with the mouse, but I sometimes like just being able to hold shift and it move, you know, however many times I need, or directly right where I need it. You know, I might move it straight down and I'm off one or something like that. So for me, it keeps everything nice and lined up. Now the same rule applies if you want to move mixer channels. So say I want to select these 3 here and move them. What we'll do is we'll hold control and just click and drag, let go, and now hold shift and move our mouse wheel. Move it forward, backward, everywhere we want to go, and releasing shift will bring you back to your normal view where you are scrolling left to right. Speaking of moving stuff with scroll wheel, the last thing I want to show on this is how to rearrange your effects within the mixer window. So it's literally just as simple as moving your scroll wheel up or down while you have your mouse over an effect slot. You don't have to hold control or shift, nothing like that. All you have to do is just scroll your mouse wheel. So tip number 5, I'm gonna call this the CJink tip here. There's several parts to this tip, and it really just kind of explains my setup and my workflow here. So as you can notice, my tracks are right here on the left, but my picker panel is not there. That is because I have it over here on the right. I personally prefer that a little bit better. That way I've got my sounds directly over here on my left, and all I have to do is come over to the patterns, click and drag them over wherever I need them. I also use an ultra wide monitor, so I've got plenty of room on my screen. And for me, I would just rather have this to the right where I'm not hardly looking compared to the left where, you know, I'm looking a lot more. So if you want to set up your playlist to look like mine, click on the playlist options arrow, come down to view. Now, first off, I have double height enabled on the mini playlist preview. That's your area up here where it shows you kind of where everything's at. If I turn double height off, look how much thinner this is now. I do like to click with my mouse wheel and just drag to zoom in and out sometimes. So this is very hard to do with a very slim timeline up here. So just come to view, go down to mini playlist preview and click on double height. Now you can also get the same feature here in the piano roll. I love it. We just come over here to piano roll options, come to view and go down to mini piano roll preview and hit enable. Now we have this bar at the top that lets us see our notes and know where we're at and do the same thing, you know, click and drag in with the mouse wheel to zoom in and pull out to zoom out. Now to get our pattern panel over here on the right side, we're going to choose playlist options, come down to picker panel, hit show on right side, and now we've got it on our right. I can't remember which producer I saw do this, but when I first saw that, I was like, I really want to use that. So that's why I keep everything over there. And for me, like I said, it just feels a lot more cleaner having nothing really over here. It looks a lot better to have the browser and the tracks right next to each other and not have this in the way of it. So for the last part of this tip is using the plus and minus keys to cycle through the picker panel over here. I first saw KBZ doing this. He introduced me to this. I used to do it, but I have a keyboard that does not have a numpad on it, so I can no longer do it. You have to do it with a numpad. So if you want to do it, all you have to do is hit the numpad plus or minus, and it will move your selection up or down one. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with a bonus tip. So tip number 6, learn to use your keyboard modifiers. That's one of the easiest things you can learn to do in any DAW or any program you are learning that will help you to advance and work even faster. So for example, one thing that kills me is if somebody has their grid set to say 1/4 and they try to cut, you know, perfectly online. It's very hard to do. So my simple solution to that is always using a higher grid mode, so either bar or beat, and always holding shift. It will always cut straight. There's no, you know, diagonal stuff. It's perfectly straight. So all I have to do is just click wherever and it will automatically snap and cut whatever the note value the grid is set to. Now on the other end of that, we have my other favorite, holding the shift key and alt. That will let us cut anywhere not tied to the grid, still perfectly straight up and down. If I let go of shift, now it lets me kind of go around, you know, wherever I want with it, but if I hold shift, it will snap it back perfectly and make sure whatever you cut is not at some weird angle and it cuts directly where you want it. So speaking of holding Alt, let's say you want to nudge just the end of a clip up or down just a little bit. You know, you can move it to wherever you want it. One of the most important ways I use this is by dragging audio clips to the side just a little bit to start a crossfade. Say I want to crossfade these two clips right here, it will allow me to hold Alt and drag, and now we have a crossfade. Alrighty, so that sums up everything I've got for this video. Let me know if you all learned anything new from this video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if you might have any other tips and tricks of your own that you don't think anybody knows about that you would like for me to talk about in a future video. Thank you all for watching. My name is CJ, aka CJink. Have a good whatever time of day you're watching this, and God bless.